Welcome back to Unami, one of the top manga anime channels on YouTube. The new One Piece chapter hinted at the mystery of the Iron Giant's power source, the so-called ancient energy. I think I have solved the mystery. Could it be related to Nika, the Sun God? As Luffy transforms, the giant awakens upon hearing Nika's heartbeat. Does Luffy's heartbeat, the unique vibrational frequency of the Sun God Nika, resonate with the Iron Giant, causing him to awaken? Perhaps Luffy's heart acts like a remote, providing something akin to solar energy from the Sun God, with the sun symbolizing life and energy. Everything points to the idea that the Iron Giant was either specially built for Nika or by Nika, and if Nika's power revolves around turning fantasy into reality, he might have the ability to bring non-living things to life. Maybe that's what we are witnessing here. But there's much more to it. Let's talk about it. The latest chapter of One Piece, chapter 1092, titled The Tyrant Attacking Holy Land Incident, highlights Kuma attacking Mary Geoise. It begins as he arrives at the capital of the world government. Not gonna lie, seeing Mary Geoise in chaos, burning and with the celestial dragons in fear for their lives is truly satisfying. This indicates that we are nearing the climax of the One Piece series. From now on, the intensity will only increase with each new chapter. There are guards attempting to restrain Kuma, but they are clearly unsuccessful. Kuma then deploys his shock technique, where he gathers air, compresses it, and then releases it towards his opponent. With a massive impact, all the guards are taken down, and even some celestial dragons are wounded. In One Piece, apart from matters related to Imo, harming a celestial dragon is among the biggest offenses, if not the biggest. So this is a really big deal. This is probably the most insane event in all of One Piece. I mean, this man is in Mary Geoise, what the It's more than just a declaration of war, it marks the start of the war itself. Subsequently, we witness Akainu confronting Kuma about his actions and intentions. Some may recall my theory that Bonney is an artificially created human, possibly derived from Big Mom's DNA and crafted using technology from Mats, also referred to as the laboratory for peace. This is connected to the concept of the lineage factor and such. OG Stasi likely created her offspring using Whitebeard's DNA, while vegapunk used Big Mom's DNA for Bonney. This could be the reason the world government regarded her as their property. It also might explain why Bonney mentioned that she had been on this island in her younger years. The theory is that when Kuma was captured and taken to Vegapunk, he met Bonney. He didn't bring her along. He noticed she was either unhappy with her existence or yearned for a genuine life, not as a cyborg or clone. Over time, they grew as close as a father and daughter would. Then they decided to embrace that bond, becoming a real father and daughter. To make this happen, Kuma might have filled her with fabricated memories using his ability. Naturally, he would need to erase any reminders of a previous life. While it's unclear what Bonney experienced in her past, Kuma might have become enraged when he learned the truth. This could be why he chose to become a cyborg, to maintain control. Without Vegapunk's intervention, Kuma might have attacked Mary Geoise years earlier. Such an action would have been detrimental for both Bonney and Vegapunk, but when Kuma realized that Bonney, Vegapunk and Luffy were all in the same location, and that a critical point had been reached, something was triggered within him, pushing him to act on a plan he'd harbored for years. Some might argue that Kuma's actions stem from his time as a slave, suggesting he's pursuing revenge. However, I don't see Kuma as someone who would lose control of his emotions solely based on personal reasons. Typically, such intense actions come from a desire to avenge a loved one. Clearly, the Revolutionary Army has no idea what is going on, so it has nothing to do with a plan. So yeah, that's roughly my take on the matter. Then we see Akainu pondering what a consciousness-less entity like Kuma might be doing in the Holy Land. It's crucial to determine whether Kuma really has any consciousness right now. We have only two possibilities to consider. The first is that he genuinely lacks consciousness, which would imply someone else is remotely controlling Kuma. But this seems unlikely based on the events we have seen during Kuma's attack. Vegapunk was preoccupied with Bonney, and Dragon with the rest of the Revolutionary Army was in the dark about the unfolding situation, as I told you before. So neither group Kuma had been in contact with could have triggered this behavior at the moment unless it was some sort of timer. But then only Vegapunk makes sense because, as I said, the Revolutionary Army has no idea. Or maybe someone from the kingdom where he was king. However, this seems implausible since to our knowledge he never revisited that place after his cyborg transformation. Alternatively, it could be someone in Mary Geoise, perhaps a good celestial dragon. We are aware that some good celestial dragons exist, we have seen a few, so it's not unreasonable to think there might be more of them out there. I'm actually quite confident there are. We also know that celestial dragons once had or still have the means to control Kuma. Maybe some from the celestial dragons really did command Kuma to act. But to be honest, the sequence of events aligning perfectly with those on Egghead Island is quite weird. I don't think it's a coincidence that Bonney found out the truth the moment when Kuma started to attack. This leaves us with a final option for the first possibility. If Kuma truly lacks consciousness, then the following scenario must be the case. Namely, both Vegapunk and Kuma had made a mutual decision. The catalyst for Kuma's actions might have been an occurrence on Egghead Island, possibly involving Luffy and Bonney or Bonney. Vegapunk mentioned several times during this arc that Luffy's arrival on his island must be fate, indicating that he had been expecting him. So perhaps Bonney accessing this memory room was the trigger for Kuma. Alternatively, Vegapunk might have remotely activated something even if it appeared otherwise. Maybe really with a timer. The second possibility is that Kuma is conscious and is acting for the reason I explained earlier in the video. This could be related to Bonney's past, which he might not remember, so all this might be the anger of a loving father. However, this brings us back to the idea that someone must have intervened to awaken Kuma. This is very similar to the first possibility. Instead of giving a specific command, Vegapunk ensured that Kuma will become aware again at some point. Following this, the battle between Akainu and Kuma begins. Akainu immediately strikes, melting a portion of Kuma's head and also part of one of his legs. Interestingly, Kuma doesn't appear to make any effort to combat Akainu. He doesn't even launch an attack. We observe him simply fleeing. However, I wouldn't describe it precisely that way. It seems more like Kuma had a specific mission in mind. He probably recognized that he can't defeat Akainu, and battling him isn't his primary reason for being there. As what Kuma's true mission might be, that remains a mystery. If driven by rage, he might be targeting a particular individual for retribution. If it is in line with a plan that he and perhaps Vegapunk formulated years ago, then it's probably a strategic move. Kuma might aim to destroy something, steal an item, or make a symbolic statement to boost the morale of those gearing up to combat the world government. He could also be trying to reveal a hidden truth. I think you grasp the idea. We then see Kuma using his ability and he disappears. This is likely the reason why Akainu isn't following him, because Kuma isn't in the vicinity anymore. But this is somewhat puzzling. If Kuma can teleport anywhere he desires, well, not exactly teleport, but you understand, then why didn't he just do that right away instead of making this grand show by climbing up the red line and causing all that chaos? Perhaps Kuma already achieved his goal and we just didn't realize it. Maybe it was really just about food and water, making the life of the celestial dragons even harder. Or he's currently teleporting himself to a nearby location. He might be hiding or doing something else at this moment. Imagine he's attacking Emu. This would be insane. Actually, I do want to see Emu fighting someone else before Luffy. And besides that, I don't believe his actions are random, they must serve a purpose. Another possibility is that he was heading to Egghead Island and chose a route that allowed him to briefly spread chaos in Mary Geoise. This once again suggests that an event on Egghead either awakened his consciousness or prompted in order to go there, perhaps to protect Vegapunk or Bonney. Definitely not Luffy, because Dragon wasn't aware of this. In this scenario, maybe Vegapunk summoned him. With Kuma aware that this might be his final day, he decided to leave a lasting mark on Mary Geoise. This theory stands if he retained some form of consciousness, otherwise for some reason Vegapunk wanted this chaos. We then see some of the celestial dragons blaming Akainu for not capturing Kuma. It's the same old story with them, utterly ungrateful and lacking understanding. It also appears that Mary Geoise's food reserves are at a minimum. Imagine if Kuma had damaged the water source. Like if they filtered salt water from the sea. People can survive without food for weeks, but without water, they might be forced to leave Mary Geoise. Can you imagine that? Cut to Egghead Island, where Kizaru is facing off against Luffy's Gear 4 Snake Man. Clearly, Luffy's on a completely different level. While we don't really know how powerful Kizaru is, watching him battle Gear 4 gives the impression he's somewhat struggling. Of course, he's far from being defeated, but if he's having even a slight problem with Gear 4, I can't see him standing a good chance against Gear 5. Speaking of Gear 5, after a bit more back and forth, the chapter's final double page reveals a giant Luffy in Gear 5. He appears directly above, capturing Kizaru with his enormous hand. This scene clearly indicates that Kizaru is no match for Luffy, and honestly he shouldn't be. Someone who has beaten Kaido should not struggle with an admiral. Sure, there might be challenges, and the fight could continue for a while, but the idea is that Luffy has reached a level where he could potentially defeat anyone, including Emu in theory. At least when it comes to his devil fruit power, he still needs a better haki. As Kaido's pointed out, in the One Piece world, it's not devil fruits that determine a king, but haki. Goldie Roger, for instance, didn't even possess a devil fruit. Similarly, Shanks, the strongest emperor, primarily relies on haki. So if Luffy is to challenge Shanks for the Pirate King title, not because Shanks desires the One Piece, but rather to test Luffy's readiness, then he will lose if his haki isn't at its peak. And I highly doubt that Kizaru is anywhere close to Shanks in terms of haki. Even if he has Conqueror's haki, it's just not the right time in One Piece anymore for him or any admiral to be anywhere close to Luffy at this point. To conclude the chapter, the ancient robot's eyes illuminate upon detecting Nika's heartbeat. End of chapter. What just happened? The Iron Giant's power source is known as the mysterious ancient energy. Since Nika is honored as the sun god from ancient times, there's a chance that the ancient energy which powers the Iron Giant is connected to the sun god's power. In many mythologies, the sun is linked with life, energy, and renewal. When Luffy transformed into Nika, the sun god, he might have given off some of this old solar energy, either recharging or waking up the Iron Giant. Additionally, the Iron Giant was made around the time of the Void Century, about 900 years ago. Records show that Nika existed in that same ancient period, suggesting a link to that time. So it's believable that the Iron Giant was made to respond to the special energy that Nika as the sun god gives off. If Nika's power is about turning fantasy into reality, he might be able to bring non-living things to life. This is a bit like how devil fruits can be added to weapons. It's notable that even Vegapunk hasn't identified an alternative type of energy to power the robot. Typically, if you're proficient in technology, especially if you're a Vegapunk, you can just introduce a different energy source by restructuring certain components. After all, an energy source is just a source of energy. All energy is equal. Solar energy is energy. Wind energy is also energy. So theoretically, he should be able to power the robot with any available energy source. However, this approach didn't work, indicating that in the One Piece world, there are different types of energies, not just different sources of energy. This suggests a very unique energy source specifically for the robot, lining up with the idea that Nika filled the robot with his own power. This might change the robot from a machine into something that feels alive, powered by the energy from Nika's heartbeat. It would be amazing if Luffy with this ability could bring their ship to life. He might even revive the flying lamp or going Mary, depending on your translation. Seeing that would be quite emotional. If Luffy's heartbeat powered up the robot, there might be a scientific reason for this. Everything has a vibrational frequency, including our heartbeats. When Luffy became Nika, his heartbeat's frequency could have changed or become stronger. This might have matched the resonance frequency of the Iron Giant, which allowed energy to be passed and switch the robot on. So the robot resonates with a special frequency, the unique one that only Sun God Nika emits. When this frequency aligns, both elements sync up and connect. In this theory, the Iron Giant operates using Luffy's energy. Luffy's rubbery nature could be important too. Rubber stops electricity, but it can also hold static energy. This energy could then go to the Iron Giant via Luffy's heart. So what do you think of this new One Piece chapter spoilers and my chapter review? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. You support me and in return I'm able to make more and better videos for you. And if you don't want to miss any new videos, then subscribe to my channel with the notification bell activated. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.